Hello literature connoisseurs. Let's begin. Chapter 13 opens with Buck sitting in an airport reading his own obituary. It basically summarizes the last few chapters about what Buck had been doing. It mentions a little of his background but no new material gets presented. Except the mention that a fake terrorist organization claimed responsibility for killing Allen. Scene changes to Rayford as he creates a plan in order to talk to Chloe about the imaginary affair he had with Hattie. He plans to tell Chloe he wants to convert Hattie in order to bring up the topic of religion with Chloe. This will give him the opportunity to convert Chloe without her realizing it. Rayford reflects that Chloe agreed to go to a Bible study but she walked out in the middle of it. When they discuss it, Rayford remarks that the topic was hitting too close to home and that was why she could not deal with that. Not realizing she may have walked out because the whole thing seemed foolish and absurd. While driving, Rayford remarks about all the cars that had crashed due to the work of God. Chloe counters with the problem of evil. Rayford deflects by saying that they live in a fallen world and Satan was given control of it. This is a stupid argument because if Satan has control of the world then he doesn't need the Antichrist in order to try and rule the world because he already has control. Why does he have to fight for what he already controls? This is a piss-poor argument from someone that thinks they are skeptical and logical. Also makes God look pathetically weak if he loses control of the world that he made, supposedly. Rayford then goes on to try the Ray Comfort style of witnessing on his daughter. He asks her if she ever sinned. She deflects, so he asks what she thinks about the Bible saying that everyone has sinned. You know, the same Bible that states that if you repent and believe you will go to heaven. However, believers, like Bruce, were not considered true Christians when they obeyed the Bible and were left behind. The same Bible that proves that Jesus is not the Messiah. They go back and forth, but Chloe shows signs of wearing down as the authors stopped giving her good objections in order to make their religion look better. Scene changes to Buck and his boss, Steve Plank, appears to meet him for some strange reason. He sees Buck and makes a snide comment about his disguise, then moves on to talking about Nikolai. The authors keep showing their age as they keep describing Nikolai as looking like a young Robert Redford. Insert eye roll here. Back when this book came out, Robert Redford was an unknown in the movie industry to young audiences. Buck tells Steve he has a plan to tell Nikolai about the murder of his friend Alan and how he suspects Nikolai's friends of committing it. He thinks Nikolai is a patsy and is being used by Joshua Todd Cothran and Jonathan Stonigal. Steve attempts to remain objective after hearing this, but both seem to be fanboying over Nikolai. Back to Rayford and she accompanies him on his flights. Rayford regrets that due to his job he can't spend any time with her. During a cab ride between flights, the cabbie takes him to a parking garage where there are numerous cars sticking out of the side of it due to the disappearances. The cabbie reveals that she was a person that never took the Bible seriously and now is another gullible person like Rayford. The cabbie makes a comment that a person must be stupid not to believe all this is not the work of the rapture. The pure gall is astounding that Christians think they are the only ones that are correct even though their religion is built from bits and pieces of other religions. This also ignores the facts that Christianity cannot meet its burden of prove their God exists, or the fact that the Bible never mentions the rapture, so the prospect is that this hypothetical story will never really happen. At lunch, Rayford tells Chloe about his imaginary affair with Hattie. And she makes the comment saying, "But you never acted on it." It's unclear if she is really dismissing the foolishness of his thought crimes or taking it seriously that an imaginary affair equals a real affair. The conversation shifts towards religion again and Chloe again dismisses him. Rayford wonders if he was as pseudo-intellectual at Chloe's age as she is today. What we are seeing here is that the authors are projecting their faults onto Rayford. They are trying to make it seem as if others are pseudo-intellectual when they themselves are. This becomes more and more transparent as the series progresses. Rather than proving their God exists or that the Bible, that they have disproved themselves, is true. They resort to ad hominem attacks against intellectuals that dismiss their propaganda nonsense. Rayford confesses that he intends to preach to Hattie and Chloe confronts him about that. She knocks him off his moral high horse by pointing out his ridiculousness. He responds by calling her a brat because he cannot refute her. Scene changes to Buck. Steve gives him special press credentials to meet with Nikolai. Steve blathers on about what a great guy Nikolai is and how important this interview is for the magazine. They enter the main area of the United Nations as Nikolai enters to address the group. Chaim steps up to the microphone and gives a brief introduction to welcome Nikolai to the podium. The authors try to make Nikolai seem both powerful and humble, but like how they keep failing to make Bruce and Pastor Billings look humble, they don't really make him seem impressive. The whole speech is very lackluster by how the authors present it. Nikolai starts with a brief history of how the United Nations was created. He doesn't use note cards as they talk about him having a photographic memory as if that is somehow special. He then goes on to name each country that makes up the United Nations in alphabetical order. They claim he spoke with such passion and humility that each country swelled with pride as their names were called. This somehow made every country seem to be spellbound by this as Buck watched, and Buck was equally spellbound by this mundane display. We are expected to believe this was somehow impactful, yet the whole speech can be summed up in one word. Yawn. This ends chapter 13. See you next time for chapter 14 of Left Behind.